Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido, and today it is the Levere Constrictors going up against the Holon Allies, as the Constrictors are well within range of moving into contention for that top spot on the leaderboard, whereas the Holon Allies are just trying to get themselves into the top 5 and make the inaugural victory road here in the PokeType League VGC, but both these sides have a lot riding on it. So with that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the Psychic decks? Will it be the Rainbow decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And having flipped heads, it is the Constrictors going first with their Sentinel Clones deck. They are going to put the Golett into that active spot with the Mewtwo on the bench. The Holon Allies using their red and blue deck. They do have the Flareon in hand as they put that Eevee into the active spot. It's the only basic Pokemon they had, as the Constrictors have the Professor's Research and the Pokeball, but they've just pulled the Golurk as well, which is perfect for that active spot. And using the Pokeball, they get the Ralts, and they've already got that Curlier in hand, and now they need the Gardevoir as they play the Professor's Research, and the first card is the Gardevoir. That is fantastic. This is the hand they want to start with, as they also have that Giovanni in hand. They send it over to the Allies though, who do pull their second Eevee there. They're going to play the Pokeball, trying to get another basic Pokemon. This time they get the Staryu, and their energies produced here are the fire and water energies for this deck, as the Holon Allies are the rainbow decks here in the PokeType League VGC. They do have multi-type teams, as that tackle with the fire energy that was put onto the Eevee, taking that 20 damage from the Golett, as a second Golett is pulled for the Levere Constrictors, who are going to get that Curlier online one more turn, and they will have that Gardevoir there, producing extra energy for potentially the Golurk, as they're thinking about putting it into that active spot, and that they do. So the Golurk is waiting. It does require 4 energy here. They send it back over to the Holon Allies, who pull the Starmie, which is perfect for that Staryu. It only requires 1 water energy, whereas if they can get that Flareon online, it requires at least 1 fire energy that will be discarded every time, and they've already got that onto the Eevee here. And the Eevee is trying to chip away here at this Golurk. The second Gardevoir though is being pulled for the Levere Constrictors. They immediately put that down onto the Curlier, and here they go. They can start producing with that Psy Shadow more energy onto this Golurk, that it will be easily eliminated by the Flareon if it is put online. So they're actually very intelligently trying to set up the Mewtwo now, as that Golurk is well within elimination range. It is the red card being pulled for the Holon Allies, as their energy zone is continuing to produce these water energies now. They play the red card. They've also got the blue in that deck as well. The Levere Constrictors put their hand into the deck. They have to reshuffle, pulling 3 cards. They get the Golurk and 2 Giovannis here. But there it is, that third energy onto the Eevee. They do evolve it into the Flareon, and with this Flamethrower, but first they're going to play the Sabrina card as well. This is going to cause the Constrictors to have to choose between Mewtwo, who will be able to survive this move, or Gardevoir, who will not. From the Flareon, they're opting to go with the Mewtwo. Very well done by the Holon Allies to try and throw the Constrictors off their game, going for that Flamethrower. This Mewtwo has 10 health remaining, and just like that, the complexion of this matchup has quickly changed, as that Mewtwo is an absolute powerhouse. The mythical slab that was pulled by the Constrictors played immediately. It's the Professor's Research, so that will go onto the bottom of the deck. They won't be able to use it. Now the Constrictors really need to think about how they want to approach this. Now we know that Flareon requires another fire energy, and the next energy being produced here in the energy zone for the Allies is a water energy, which will buy the Constrictors some time here. And it is the Psy Shadow being used onto the Mewtwo, but there's not much the Constrictors can do in the meantime, whereas the Allies do have that Starmie, who we did touch on earlier, only requires 1 energy, a water energy that is produced. The next energy being produced for the Allies is a fire energy. This is fantastic for the Allies. They are getting the energy they need at this point in time, because they can use this X speed to retreat the Flareon. Getting that retreat cost, having used 2, they get it down to 0, bringing the Flareon back onto the bench, and it is the Starmie in the active spot who will easily take this Mewtwo off the board and get that first point for this red and blue deck of the Holon Allies. And very impressive that the Holon Allies, especially with the red and blue deck, it has been a lot less consistent this season. The Constrictors are a very powerful team, but we know that Allies have that Dragon's Frost deck that can be extremely powerful as well, as the Gardevoir gets its first energy here, and with this Psy Shadow it will get an energy onto this Golok. It gets 2 coin flips, each one does 100, it only needs 1 heads to take this Starmie off the board. The coin flip happens, they get a Tails, and they get the heads, so they will be able to get this Starmie off the board. They get that return point, so it is 1 point to both sides as Starmie has been taken off the board. But just as crucially, the Hollow Allies still have that Flareon who has a massive offensive potential with 110. They pull their second Flareon as well with that Eevee in hand. They do move it to the bench. They will get this Fire Energy onto the Flareon. It will be able to take the Golok off the field, and this gets them their second point, but they do have to discard that Fire Energy. But crucially, the next energy being produced for them is another Fire Energy, as the Constrictors really need to think about how they're going to approach this. They opt to go with the Golett. They pull their second Mewtwo as well. They can evolve this Golett into the Golok, who can survive a move here from the Flareon as the Constrictors try to figure out what they're going to do here. And it looks like they're going to try and set up this Golok. It will be able to survive this turn. They will be able to get another 2 energies on the next turn. They'll just need to get 2 heads. That is the crucial part, as the allies will be able to get in some good damage here onto the Flareon. They've just evolved the Eevee though. That is a very risky play, because the next energy now being produced is a Water Energy. 110 damage onto the Golok, 30 health remaining. But if it can get 2 heads, this Flareon will be wiped off the board as the second Ralts is pulled for the Constrictors. They get that onto the bench here, keeping that Mewtwo in hand. But now they do opt to put that onto the bench using the Psy Shadow. They get this energy. Again, this Golok will need 2 heads. Even with the Giovanni, it will add an additional 10, but it needs to get at least 1 heads for it to get that 10 damage. Gets the Tails, Flareon will survive. It gets a heads, Flareon will survive with 10 health remaining. These coin flips are very risky here. But again, Flareon, 10 health remaining. It's the Druddigon being pulled for the Hollow Allies as they are continuing to produce water energies in their energy zone here. The allies really need to think about how they want to approach this, because Flareon cannot get enough power off here because it doesn't have any extra fire energy. Now the Levier Constrictors still need 2 more eliminations. They pull the Gardevoir, they still need another Curlier as well. With that said though, for the Hollow Allies, they only require 1 more point to take game 1 in this best of 3 series, where that third game always counts toward the leaderboard. But here it is, they just need another heads. With this coin flip, they get a Tails. They get 2 Tails. This is terrible for the Constrictors. They could have gotten another point by taking out this Flareon, who, if a Fire Energy is produced for it, won't be on this turn, but it will be able to go on the offensive, and it's more Water Energy, so being produced for the Hollow Allies as they are going to retreat the Flareon. They're putting that Druddigon into the active spot with that rough skin that will do 20 damage in return if it takes any damage here from this Golurk. And they are using the blue card as well to reduce the damage by 10, which will actually force the Constrictors. They need to use that Giovanni just to ensure if they can get 1 coin flip. As they get their second Curlier, they put that onto the bench. This Golurk though still in the active spot. They get another Psy Shadow here that will just continue to put more and more energy onto this Golurk, but it just needs to flip 1 heads to get this Druddigon off the board. This is a big moment for the Levier Constrictors. This game 1 is actually still anybody's, and they get the heads on the first one. They get the second one. It is going to do 210 damage to take... Oh, sorry, it only does 200 because of that blue card that was played, but there's just that recoil damage onto the Golurk there, as I have to think of its name. Now, the Hollow Allies are not in a great spot. They do put that Flareon into the active spot, but they pulled the Staryu, and this is actually the card they needed, because they can put the Staryu down, immediately get an energy onto it. The Staryu has enough power potential to take out the Golurk. They pulled the perfect card. They don't even have to worry about the Starmie in hand. With this smack, it does 20 damage. It takes the Golurk out, and the Hollow Allies take game 1, having pulled the perfect card that they needed. And that game 1 was so close, because if they had not pulled that Staryu, The Constrictors could have retreated the Golurk and used the Mewtwo to wipe any card off the board, but we are into game 2. The allies flip heads. They will be going first with this liquid metal deck. They pull the 2 Eevees as well. Now this deck does only produce metal energy. They have the Misties somewhere in that deck. If they get the Vaporeon out, it is going to be the Leviathan Constrictors with their Twisted Spoon deck, putting the LGM into that active spot, and they've already got that Behem in hand as well that gets powered up based on the benched Pokemon for the allies. The Pokeball though being played by the Holland allies, they get them all out. They've got 2 Professors Research. They can only use one of them as it is a supporter card. It is 1 supported per turn, but they get another Pokeball along with the Mawile here. They are thinning this deck very quickly as they get the Pawniard, which is perfect because they've already got that Bishop in hand as well. And they do opt to go with both a Pawniard and a Bishop onto the bench. It's the Mythical Slab being pulled by the Constrictors, and they've got 2 Mythical Slabs in hand, but first they're going to play the Professor's Research. They get an Alakazam, they get the Haunter. Those Mythical Slabs would have been perfect first up, but let's see how their luck goes. They get a Gengar as well with that first Mythical Slab. They can still play the second one, and they're hoping for another Psychic type card, and they get the second Gengar as well. This is fantastic for the Constrictors, massively thinning their deck, but they are unable to get another basic Pokemon here, so they can only go for the Headbutt with the Algym. So they need to be very careful because this Eevee has the potential with these continuous steps. It will continue to flip coins until it gets a Tails, each coin flip doing 20 damage. It could take out this Algym as the second Professor's Research does get a Meltan and a Pawniard into hand, but here it is, the continuous steps. This coin flip could do everything. Gets 1. It gets only 1 though. This is fantastic for the Leviathan Constrictors. They're able to keep alive here in game 2. They did not want to lose it that quickly. And another Professor's Research being played by the Leviathan Constrictors. This time they get the Ghastly. They also get the Kadabra, but they can start putting Pokemon on the bench here because they've got a basic Pokemon in this Ghastly, but they can also evolve this Algym into the Behem, capitalizing on that full bench of the Holland allies. It's going to do 70 damage with this Mind Jacket. Normally it only does 10, an additional 20 for every benched Pokemon, and with a full bench it maxes out that attack at 70 as we just saw here. Now the Holland allies really they really may want to be a little bit more cautious based on what is on the bench. They have to think about how they're going to approach this. They do send out the Eevee. They pull the Vaporeon as well. Now again, they do require the Misty on the Vaporeon to be able to do damage with that. As they're looking at their hand about how they may want to approach this, they do evolve the Pawniard into the Bishop, and they're going to evolve the Eevee. This will guarantee that it will outlast moves from the Behem. Now it is the Constrictors pulling the Abra. They've got the Kadabra in hand. They've got the Alakazam. They just evolved the Ghastly into the Haunter, and they've got those 2 Gengars in their hand as well. They're starting to set up the Abra. Haunter and Gengar only require 1 energy, but there's 50 damage being done to this Vaporeon here. Comes back over to the allies, and they get their second Vaporeon. That is unfortunately useless because that other Eevee has been taken off the board. But now it is the Meltan. They're trying to set up the Meltan in case they get a Melmetal. It requires 4 energy, but it is a powerhouse as they do evolve the Haunter into the Gengar. They're continuing to put the energy though onto the Abra, as Alakazam does require 3 energy, but it's actually powered up based on the amount of energy on the opposing active Pokemon. And even with that 70 damage, the Vaporeon outlasts another turn, which is perfect because the allies have just pulled the Misty, but they're going to need at least 2 heads, and they get a Tails on the first one. There will be no water energy going on to this Vaporeon, and it will not be able to last another turn here against this LGM, as a Ghastly is pulled for the Leviathan Constrictors, another basic Pokemon, but they don't have a second Haunter or a second Kadabra in hand. However, this Alakazam is now online, and it is the Mind Jack finally from Behem that will take another point from the Holland allies. The Constrictors have 2 points here in game 2. They are in full control at the moment. And they pull another Meltan through the Holland allies as they set up Bishop in the active spot. There's not much they can do here though. At the moment, Bishop can take this Behem off the board with this Metal Claw, doing 70 damage, the perfect amount needed. But again, the Leviathan Constrictors, they have that Alakazam set up and ready to go, who will capitalize on Bishop's energy that is on it here. They pull the Elgin. They don't have to worry about too much though. They're not even going to worry about the energy. This is going to do 120 damage, wiping Bishop off the board, and the Levere Constrictors have taken game 2. That Alakazam is an absolute powerhouse. Now speaking of powerhouses though, it will be the Dragon's Frost deck of the allies going up against the Constrictors Magic Show, who will be going first. They did flip heads. They do have the Drowsy in their hand. They've also got a Pokeball, whereas the Holland allies, they've got the they've got the Snum, but they've also got the whole Dragonite line, so they put that Dratini on the bench. Now that Dragonite requires 4 energy, but within the Levere Constrictors deck is also the Jinx, who capitalizes on the opposing Pokemon's energy, and there it is, the first Jinx being pulled for the Levere Constrictors. That is perfect for them. If that Dragonite gets set up, they play the Pokeball. They do get out of Flabebe as well, so they can put the Flabebe onto the bench along with Jinx here, and Flabebe is way too much fun to say, as it is the Professor's Research being pulled for the Holland allies. Now this deck doesn't just produce water energy, it also produces those lightning energies as well, as it is the Frostmoth and the Eevee being pulled for the Holland allies with that Professor's Research. And they're not worrying about setting up the Snom here, who will not take any damage from the Drowsy. It requires 2 energy. Who pull the Hypno as well, do the Levere Constrictors. They can try and put this Snom to sleep. Now the Flabebe does get evolved into the Floette here, but you can see that the focus of the Holland allies is trying to set up this Dratini along with the Dragonair, Dragonite, but the Sleep Pendulum, Coin Flip if they get a heads. The Snom is asleep, and that it is. This is great for the Constrictors, although surely the allies will want to evolve it into the Frostmoth shortly. And the Constrictors are more concerned though also with setting up the Floette line. And the Holland allies do flip aheads anyway, so they're able to evolve the Snom here as they pull the Giovanni. Gotta think they probably want to set up that Frostmoth just to have it there to take more damage if they're concerned with setting up this Dragonair. But the Holland allies also have a lightning energy that will be getting produced on their next turn, and it only requires at least 1 of them and 1 water energy for both the Dragonair and the Dragonite to start doing damage here. They do put the Eevee onto the bench as a second Hypno is pulled for the Levere Constrictors, and they're going to get that first energy onto the Jinx, who remember will do more damage based on the energy on the opposing Pokemon. Those coin flips continuing with the heads though, and they get another head, so they're able to put the Frostmoth to sleep here. But the Holland allies first will need to flip a heads of their own for it to wake up. And they're able to produce that immediately as well, pulling the Jolteon now, who they can use to evolve that Eevee. It requires just 1 lightning energy. They're getting all the energies and all the Pokemon they need right now are the Holland allies, but the Constrictors have just as much power. Again, we cannot stress that Psychic of Jinx capitalizing on the energies that are getting set up on this Dragonite right now, as the Constrictors need to think about how they're going to want to approach this from here. They have got that Jinx now set up on line. Hypno still in that active spot, has no energy, so it cannot go for the Psy Punch, but it can still use its ability to go for the Sleep Pendulum. Flips the tails though, so Frostmoth will stay awake. And the Constrictors, thinking about what they can do, which isn't much else, they send it back over to the Holland allies, who pull their Dratini, their second Dratini. They do have a full 2 Dragonite lines in that deck as well, with the Jolteon, who they're going to get that first lightning energy onto. They're setting up their backline well here in case Frostmoth gets taken out of this match, but it's the Florges now being pulled for the Levere Constrictors. They immediately get that online. That can do 80 damage, so it can produce a lot of power of its own, but still, the Hypno cannot do much here without any energy. It requires 2 to retreat, and there is the X speed in hand for the Levere Constrictors. But it seems neither side yet in Game 3 has taken any damage, as the heads is flipped, putting Frostmoth to sleep. But whoever wins this Game 3 will win the series, and that will have massive ramifications, as we only have 2 rounds left after this one. And the Holland allies are pulling their second Frostmoth here, and they've got that Dragonite set up, ready to go. They can't do much else. There's still no energy on the active Pokemon for either side. So not only has no damage been done, no energy has even been put onto these active Pokemon at this point. But the Constrictors can really think about how they may want to approach this. They're taking their time. They haven't set down an energy yet, but they're going to put that first energy finally onto Hypno. It has 1 on it. They're going to use the Sleep Pendulum, try and put Frostmoth to sleep. Once again, they get the tails though, so it will not be able to get the job done. They need to think about how they're going to approach this from here. They've got the Flabebe in hand. They can actually fill up their bench now as well, but they're going to use the X speed, so the retreat cost of Hypno goes down by 1, and it's the Florges into the active spot. This will do 80 damage to Frostmoth. Frostmoth will still be in this matchup though, 10 health remaining. And the allies pull a Giovanni now, so they've got 2 of them in hand. They get that first energy onto the Frostmoth, who only requires 1 to retreat. They're going to get this Dragonite online. They are ready to go with these Draco Meteors. This Giovanni will only work if it does damage to the active Florges here, but that 200 damage divided into 4 lots between the Pokemon, and they take out the Hypno, taking 100 damage. But Florges and Jinx are able to hang on. This is the power of Dragonite once it is online. There's the Floette being pulled, the Flabebe being put online as well. It does have 40 health, so it cannot last a hit from Dragonite. Neither will Jinx, as they're really thinking about how they want to approach this. They do use the potion though onto Jinx. They've got 2 in hand. They use that first one. If they use another one, it will keep Jinx. It will require it to take 2 Draco Meteors here. Again, it is 50 split up 4 times. They could do all 200 damage to any of the Pokemon. They retreat the Florges, 110 damage with this Psychic. Massive damage there to the Dragonite. Now the allies have their own potion, but that won't do much to keep Dragonite around if Jinx is able to take it off the board here. Regardless, they're still going to use that potion as they think about how they may want to handle this. They get a second energy though onto the Jolteon, and they're going to use this Giovanni once again. It still won't be enough to take out Jinx, but they're trying to maximize the damage they do here. That all counts towards the leaderboard. Draco Meteor, 110 to Jinx, but they take out the Flabebe as well, and that massive powerhouse that is Dragonite leads the Holland allies to a massive victory here that moves them up into 6th place on the leaderboard. And next round they are going up against the Labincia Wonders, whereas the Constrictors, they stay in 3rd, but next round they are going up against the Petalburg Racers. But until then, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought the best card was. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.